about, and maybe you could describe to our listeners how a new patient buys today? How does a new patient, kind of jump in the ring and become connected to a dental office?
100%. And I want to kind of make a distinction. So I'm going to talk about how people bought just 25 years ago. So let's go back to the late 90s, early 2000s. In those days, even Google was created in 1998. So most people, even in those days, went to their yellow pages. Like I did that. So I would flip to the yellow pages. I'm looking for a dentist. I'm looking for whatever I'm looking for. I slip to that section. And then I typically look at the big ads. And usually I look at 2 or 3 ads. And then if I'm interested, I'll read up on some of those ads. And then I might, if I'm one of those people who likes to make sure that the person I'm dealing with is of high quality, I might even call the dental board. Not too many people, but a few did that. They had the time.
I would add another option, Darren.
Yeah.
Another common option, say if we go back to that same time period, early 2000s, was to get a referral from a trusted friend or family.
100%. Referrals were huge those days, because I remember even myself, I always liked buying new cameras, but I felt like I didn't know anything about new cameras. So I had a friend who I thought was like a godfather when it comes to electronics, the expert. So anytime I feel like, oh, my camera is 2 years old, or like in those days, you had to keep upgrading, to new cameras. So I would call him and say, I'm thinking of getting a new one. What do you recommend? And he would say, oh yeah, this is what you should buy. Like this exact model you should buy. So we really relied on referrals in those days because we didn't have the knowledge. So we trusted that expert who had the knowledge, who would point us in the right direction.
Naren, a good analogy is that talk about how the world changes and evolves. It wasn't that long ago that pretty much every adult knew how to use a taxi cab service.
Yes.
Right? In other words, if you were traveling somewhere and you didn't want to rent a car, like maybe you're traveling to a city and you didn't want to rent a car, then you would just call a taxi.
Yes.
And yet today that whole world has changed. People just don't call taxis anymore. They use Uber or Lyft, or I guess to be more accurate, to not use brand names, they use a ride sharing service.
Yes.
Of which Uber or Lyft would be their choice. But, right. And I imagine there's young people today that you say, call a taxi, and they'll look at you like, what, are you from the horse and buggy age? Right?
Yes.
I don't know what a taxi is.
Yes, and you call like the night before, and you talk to somebody and you tell them all the address, and they'll confirm it. It's a 10-minute process.
Yeah. So take that analogy and swing that over to a potential new patient looking for a dentist. What is step one?
Absolutely.
Where are they going to? And I think I know the answer to that, because we all know how consumers choose a dentist in 2023 and beyond.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is again research based. So 90% of dental buyers, I'm going to use that phrase just to talk about the new patient. 90% of those people who are looking to find a new dentist, maybe they need Invisalign. They might have an existing dentist, but they feel like their teeth is crooked and they want somebody who they think is excellent at helping them have this awesome smile. Or they don't like their dentist, or they don't even have a dentist. Whatever their situation is, when they have a need, studies are showing that 90% of them start typing in what they need into Google. Again, it's no different than how they behave in the rest of their lives, right? The average, Google is used 8.7 billion times a day. So the average person in the world, and definitely in US and Canada, when they have any needs, they just start typing it into Google and trying to get answers. That's how they do things. Just like, you or I called a taxi when we needed a taxi 25 years ago, and our kids don't even know what that is. I mean, they just click on that app and press the button and book it, in the moment. So the people today, they start by using Google to do the research. So that's like,
even, for example, Naren, even let's go a layer deep on that. Where 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they might have asked a friend or a family member or someone for a suggestion, a recommendation.
Right.
They're still going to do that, but they don't want to inconvenience someone by asking. Instead, they're going to look at Google reviews to get the recommendation from it.
100%. So they still believe in recommendations, but I mean, again, if I give you one recommendation versus, like in the case of Life Smiles, 900 and or almost 1,000 recommendations, I want 1,000 recommendations in the,
I mean,
in
it's the
my
ultimate
palms.
example of social proof. Back in the day, to use your cameraman example,
Yeah.
You asked your camera guy because you knew your camera guy was credible.
Yes.
You had credibility in your eyes. The truth is, we don't know who wrote those reviews on Google. We don't know who they are, but
We don't.
Google reviews have credibility. Isn't that a bit ironic and yet true?
Yeah, it is true. I think we trust a review when it's from a real person as opposed to a made up review, right? The power of a Google review is it's a real person. They verify who you are. They make sure you have a phone number. So we kind of implicitly trust human beings. I think human beings trust human beings.
Well,
in
and
general.
no one's going to read, even 25 reviews, let alone almost 1,000. But if they read 2 or 3 or 4, and they're all delivering a similar message, what does the dental consumer say?
Yeah, I mean, they say he must be good, right? And again, Google makes it super easy. They'll show us the average star rating. Like in your case, it's 5.0. I mean, that tells me that you're perfect. I don't even need to read anything to know that you are amazing, right? Also, it'll tell you how many reviews the person has. So again, we know that, you can fool maybe 1 or 2 people, but it's hard to fool hundreds of people, right? So we have these preconceived notions.
I mean, you're really crowdsourcing.
Crowdsourcing, exactly.
You're leaning on that, for your decision making.